comments after last night's 4-2 loss to Dallas sets up instant chatter on potential lineup combinations with the Devils heading into a road trip. New faces, old faces, all possibilities on the table. If you're new here, welcome into Devils Digest. Glad to have you. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button for all the newest Devils conversation. 4-2 loss to Dallas last night. I think we all had similar reactions. Not a very good way to start back from the Four Nations tournament. Frustration there. Wasn't the type of game you want to see out of this team for the first time in basically 2 weeks. Sheldon Keefe agreed. He had some comments after the game on a couple of particular players. Sheldon Keefe on the Luke Hughes, Simone Nemec pairing. Yeah, not very good. That was it. Not very good. Ideal comments to be making about your two high draft picks, players you're developing. Ideal comment? No. Fair? Yeah. Let's just call a spade a spade. They weren't very good. Nemec in particularly struggled a lot. Bring it up. Look at the ice times. Nemec, 12 minutes. Another defenseman played under 18. Luke Hughes was actually second on the team in terms of ice time among defensemen. So he got his time. Simone Nemec didn't. It was a bad night from start to finish. First goal started with a Simone Nemec turnover. Player wide open in front after he turned it over. 1-0 Dallas. The start to the night, to the end of the night, was not good for Simone Nemec. Wasn't getting the same type of shifts that everyone else was getting. He took 12 total shifts. Every other player on this team took 25 plus. Basically, what the Sheldon Keefe did was basically got taken out of the lineup almost. 12 total shifts, 12-13. He was a -1. Didn't really create any offense. Didn't do anything extraordinarily defensively. Didn't have given the opportunity to do much last night. It wasn't a good game from Simone Nemec. Now, what makes this, interesting is that the Devils have a 10-day road trip, 5 games. 10 games, 5 days. Now, what really, you look at, you go, okay, well, Simone Nemec is the team. Jonas Siegenthaler's hurt. He's there. They're going to have to, I guess, kind of ride it out. I mean, maybe that's what you want to do with your second overall pick. But we saw this year, the start to this year, the Devils weren't afraid to go to someone else. They signed Jonas Kovacevic over the offseason, and maybe he was kind of looked as that 7th defenseman on this Devils team. Well, he took the spot over Simone Nemec to start the year. Simone Nemec just recently came up because of Jonas Siegenthaler, Jonas Siegenthaler's injury. To start the year, Kovacevic basically took Simone Nemec's spot on that defense as that 6th defenseman right now. They're not afraid to do that. Now, where this gets, I guess, where you kind of think like, okay, maybe they got a couple of other things that they're thinking. And coming on this trip, who made the trip with them, Seamus Casey made the trip. It's a 10-day road trip, 5 games. And Seamus Casey made the trip. Same age as Simone Nemec, 44 picks later in that draft. But we just talked about it. The Devils aren't afraid to go and play a player who, maybe didn't have the same expectations coming into this season. Maybe wasn't looked at, as somebody who's going to be a big piece of this team. Kovacevic has been a great surprise for the Devils. Been very good defensively. Him and Jonas Siegenthaler have one of the best defensive duos in the league. The underlying numbers say it. They've gone to players who they think give them the best chance to win. Now, 10 days, 5-game road trip. He's going to play something. The worst thing you can do with these, young players, these prospects, these developing players is to have them sitting on the bench. Or not sitting on the bench, sitting out in the press box. Like, if you're going to bring these guys up, they're going to play. And he made the 10-day road trip with the Devils. They didn't send him back down. He's there with the team. Now, if you're doing it for injury and possible injury during this road trip, you're probably not taking Seamus Casey. You want to keep him developing in the AHL. The plan is to get Seamus Casey into a game. And after last night, how last night's game went, it just feels even more likely that Seamus Casey gets into a game during this road trip. With how Simone Nemec played last night, that they're not completely, feel like it's good enough to put him on this team full-time yet. I mean, we knew Simone Nemec was not happy with the fact that he was going back down into the AHL. We know that the frustration might be there for Simone Nemec. Second overall pick 2 years ago. They bring in another defenseman during the offseason, Kovacevic. They bring in Brett Pesce. You look around and you're like, okay, well, when do I get my chance? Well, when you earn it at the end of the day. And I'm not saying anything. I'm not someone who's against Simone Nemec. No, not at all. I still think he's going to be a fantastic defenseman. But right now, what the Devils are doing, this is what they like. When Jonas Siegenthaler's back in the lineup, I don't think Kovacevic comes out. It's going to be either Seamus Casey or Simone Nemec. Now, they're taking their time with these two players, but like I said, the worst thing that you can do for a young, developing player is to just have him sit in the press box and watch the game. Okay? That does nobody any service. So if Seamus Casey makes this trip, I assume he gets into a game. Looking at the games coming up, you got Nashville tonight, Colorado, Utah, Vegas, Dallas. Okay, that's 3 playoff teams you got on this road trip. Utah still in it. So 3 playoff teams, Utah still in it. Tough road trip to go on. Now, are there going to be mistakes between these two young defensemen if they get into games? Absolutely. I mean, we know there are going to be mistakes. But which player is going to come in and be a factor, help? Because you know what this team lacks. I mean, we looked at it a couple years ago. They were pretty good. They don't add much offense. So which player are you going to get offense out of? They're going to make mistakes. Let's just, let's just know that that's going to happen. So which player can be a factor? I mean, you look at the goals among defensemen for the Devils this year. They've scored 22. To put it into perspective, 2 years ago, Dougie Hamilton scored 22 by himself. This year as a team, they have 22. The offense has struggled from it. The power play, maybe not as good as it could be. They don't get that same type of that offense from the back end that other teams get. Now, Simone Nemec and Seamus Casey both have offensive upside to their game. I mean, Seamus Casey, in the beginning of the season, he's already got 3 goals in 8 games. Simone Nemec's yet to score yet, but the offensive upside is there. That's why he was drafted 2nd overall. So who do you go with? Which player is going to give you that offense or maybe that juice that you need? Maybe can be that 4th forward for you. Because we already know they're young. They're developing. They're going to make mistakes. But let them make those mistakes. I mean, that's how you learn. That's how you get better. That's how you know what you can get away with, what you can't get away with, what maybe you should have done different. Those are fine. Mistakes are going to happen. But this Devils team, how they felt, obviously, beginning of the year, they said, well, yep, you're 2nd overall pick, but we feel a little bit safer with Kovacevic on the back end. Like, 2nd overall pick, player who's been pretty much a 6th, 7th defenseman for most of his career. They felt better with that 6th, 7th defenseman who's going to make a little bit less mistakes. This Devils team needs more offense. Now, is that something to explore, this whole entire thing with, Casey and the Mets? Are these players who are going to be probably full-time this year? No. And so that's kind of what I talk about as, all possibilities on the table. I would hope that the Devils are, during the trade deadline, looking to maybe get a little bit of extra offense on the back end. Because, 22 goals right now among your defensemen, you're not getting enough scoring. It's just not enough. Not in today's NHL. The way that they're developing these defensemen nowadays, it really is turned into offense first. We don't see those really shut down defensemen go high in the drafts anymore. You know, the offense almost comes first. We're looking at that offensive upside. That's where the game's trending. That's where the scoring's gone up. Defense maybe not as good or maybe as structured as it used to be, but offensively, you're creating more offense. You know, offense is your best defense. I know it's the other way usually, but that's the way I say it. Offense is your best defense. That's the NHL game today. So with the Devils, obviously, the trade deadline, once the trip's over, the trade deadline comes up. They're going to see exactly what they have on defense, obviously with Siegenthaler out. But Siegenthaler, cap space, the LTR, cap space, adds a little bit of extra money for the Devils to use. So it'll be really interesting to see what the Devils do. But without a doubt, both these players should get some time in the lineup. And, I mean, which way it goes, you just hope that both players are going to be in the lineup for this road trip, because 10 days, 5 games, if they're not going to play, then they probably shouldn't have made the trip, but they did. So that tells me that they're going to play. Let me know which player you think should be in and what type of chance they should get and what you'd like to see going forward. Maybe a possible trade at the deadline coming up here, but definitely will be interesting for the lineups coming in, starting in Nashville tonight. Game they should win. They got to win that one.